It's most of Creek County, but I do have a little bit of Tulsa County in there. So I grew up in Manford, Oklahoma, where both my parents served as educators my entire life, and I had the privilege of watching the impact that my parents and their colleagues had on students my entire life. And so when I went to high school and started to decide what am I going to do with my life, I too felt the call in my life to become an educator. I knew what I was getting myself into, but I truly believe that it is the way to change the world. Education is so important. Along with my passion for education, I've always been interested in politics. I like reading articles and staying up to date, and so I have watched legislation for several years, and I truly am passionate about making Oklahoma a better place. So before I ran, I read articles about our education system and our healthcare system and our senior care system, and I knew that we needed a difference made in Oklahoma. So when this seat came up, I made the decision, and truly I just couldn't imagine going into my classroom and telling my students that I had a chance to fight for their resources and that I didn't do it. And so I jumped in there and ran. Since that point, it's been about 6 months, and I have knocked on thousands and thousands of doors. I wear heels when I go out knocking, and I've worn 3 heels to the ground. There's 3 pairs of heels to the ground as I'm out knocking, and it has truly been such a privilege. Before running the race, I knew that education was important. I knew that our schools, a school in my district is going to a 4-day school week. We don't have textbooks in many of our classrooms, and I knew that intellectually from articles I read. But since I have begun running and I have gone out and talked to voters, I have stood on the porches of teachers who with tears in their eyes will ask me, how am I supposed to teach my 25 Algebra 2 students and have no textbook to send home with them? I've talked to a single mother who sent her kindergartner to school in home-sewn clothes and walked in the door and there were 30 other kindergartners in her class. I sat on the front porch of a family whose oldest daughter was the salutatorian of her 8th grade class at her small rural school, and her little sister was sitting on the porch next to her in hopes that she too could graduate from the 8th grade as a salutatorian of this school, but their family was worried that this school is hurting financially and that might not be a possibility. And so when we finished talking, we talked a long time, and the little girl asked me, can I put your sign in the yard? And that's something that I'll never forget, watching a student stick a sign in the ground so that she could be proactive in helping with the situation. Before running for the race, I knew that healthcare was important. I have a rural hospital in my district that has been in danger many times. And I knew that we had to protect our healthcare system for a variety of reasons. But since knocking on doors and talking to people, I've talked to the nurses who say, what's going to happen if my hospital closes? I have a family to feed. Do you know? Can you tell me the answer? I've talked to business owners who fear that the hospital in Bristow, if it closes, they don't have consumers to buy goods from their small businesses. So I've talked to people. Before running the race, I knew that our senior care was vital for not just my district, but the whole state of Oklahoma. Creek County serves the 3rd largest population of seniors in the state, which maybe, I don't know, Tulsa County may beat it, I'm not sure, but it's a very important thing in my district, and so I knew that programs such as the Advantage Waiver Program is vital to making sure that people can live within their homes and get the food and care that they need. But since running and standing on the porches of people, I talked to a lovely lady who asked me, she said, what can I do? I hear my friends aren't going to have the food that they need anymore. What can I do to make sure my friends are cared for? And just not having an answer is hard sometimes. So those are some of my stories, but for every story that I told you today, I can tell you 100 more like it. I have knocked on thousands of doors, and I can tell you the names of people's dogs. I can tell you what they grew in their garden. I know whose birthday it was this week, and I truly have fallen completely in love with the people in my community. I didn't know that my heart had space for all the people that I love. And I am reminded that before running the race, I read, OK policy articles, and I loved learning and listening to the politics of it, but it's not about the politics or the statistics on paper. These are people who are parents and their children and their grandparents, and now they're my friends. And so before running the race, I was motivated to run because I knew we needed a prosperous Oklahoma, but I'm going to win this seat because those people are my friends. They're on Facebook with me. We have good conversations, and I will stop at nothing to ensure that the people in my district have the things that they need, that our students can be educated, that our seniors are taken care of, and that our economy can prosper and we have jobs in my community. And so I am so passionate, and I love what I do. When I stand on the front porches, the front porch perspective changes the way you view Oklahoma. And I truly know why, that we knock on doors as candidates. I mean, of course you start out to get the votes, but it has made me into a better person, a person with more perspective, and I cannot wait to be a part of the solution. So I can't do it on my own. I can say that I think it's impossible at this point for my opponent to outwork me. I spend every waking moment knocking on doors. But at this point, I believe that if I can get enough volunteers and if I can get enough money, we will win this seat. That has been a long-held Republican seat. A Democrat has not held a seat since I've been alive. But when you look at previous races, for the past 10 years, we haven't had a Democratic candidate raise more than $2,000 since my race for the past 10 years. So there is more hope than it appears with the people that have held the seat. So I guess I humbly stand before you. So many of you have donated, but I'm begging you, if you know of people or friends or you personally who could chip in a little bit, I know the number that I need now, and we are nearing the fundraising goal, but I do need help. I will have fundraising envelopes in my car that I'll bring in, but thank you so much for having me today, and I am truly humbled to be before people like you.
Wow, huh? That's